I just find this whole thing very unfortunate. I recognize that a piece of this has to do with the Supreme Court legalizing political bribery, and so there's like some big money in washing around in Democratic politics. It completely owns Republican politics. It only owns a part of Democratic politics. But the idea, well, here's the thing that got me thinking about this. Yesterday afternoon, I was watching MSNBC. I forget which show. I think it might have been Joy Reid's show. And Claire McKaskill was on, and the former senator from Missouri. I believe she's a one-term senator from Missouri. And she made the comment that Kyrsten Sinema right now, the senator from Arizona who is blocking ending the filibuster, that Kyrsten Sinema is more popular in Arizona than Joe Biden is. And then she continued to say that proves that there's still a large middle in American politics, which is the middle that she had embraced as a senator, which, in my opinion, is why she's no longer a senator. Nobody on the program, of course, was rude enough to point that out to her, but I will. Here's what's going on. Assuming that, first of all, that Claire McKaskill is correct, and I have every reason to believe that she wouldn't be saying that on MSNBC if she wasn't, that Kyrsten Sinema is polling higher than Joe Biden in Arizona. It's almost certainly because Sinema is sabotaging Democrats. And so Republicans are very happy with her. But if she wants to get reelected, the Republicans aren't going to vote for her. Just like, Claire McKaskill trying to pursue these very centrist, very kind of corporate-friendly policies that, where she was aligned with the so-called moderate, kind of the Romney wing of the Republican Party. Trashing, for example, Claire McKaskill has never been a fan of Medicare for All. She's always been outspokenly opposed to it. And so what happens? Well, yeah, you poll really well. You got a bunch of Republicans who think, yeah, you're doing an okay job. But when it comes time to walk into the polling place, when it comes time to vote, those Republicans are not going to vote for her. And they didn't vote for her. They voted for a Republican. She got replaced by, as I recall, Josh Hawley. And there's this I don't know if it's a belief or a rationalization that if we can just hug these positions that Republicans also like, then that's our ticket to getting reelected. And frankly, it's not. And I put Claire McKaskill on, forward as an example of that. And I think that Democrats who listen to that kind of rhetoric and follow that kind of advice are putting the future of our party at risk. We got another example of this right now. Nina Turner, who used to be a major force in the Ohio legislature when she was a state senator. She is well known. She is nationally famous, but she is well known in Ohio. She is beloved in Ohio. She is running to replace, I'm pretty sure it's Marcia Fudge, who went on to join the Biden cabinet. Marcia Fudge, by the way, was or is an advocate of Medicare for All. And Medicare for All polls really well among Democrats in Ohio. And in fact, it even polls well among Republicans. I mean, by polling well, it's obviously not over 50%, but it's large enough that if you combine those Republicans with all the Democrats that like it, it's a winning strategy, Medicare for All. But the problem is that, David Sirota is writing about this at the Daily Poster today, and obviously, David has a dog in this fight. He was a speechwriter for Bernie Sanders for years. But he notes that Nina Turner is putting at the core of her campaign Medicare for All. And he notes in mid-June, Democratic congressional candidate Nina Turner launched a television ad campaign promoting her support for Medicare for All. Less than 2 weeks later, the pharmaceutical industry's lobbyists and its bankrolled lawmakers on Capitol Hill are trying to block her election through an opponent who has been publicly vilifying Medicare for All in the midst of a pandemic. A 2018 poll showed that Medicare for All is wildly popular in Northeast Ohio, and Turner is running in a district that has been represented for nearly 30 years by lawmakers who have supported Medicare for All, and that includes Marcia Fudge, who left Congress to serve in Joe Biden's. Yeah, my memory was correct. And so Turner says, you know, she's going to carry on that legacy. And she launches this ad worry about her own family's challenge of dealing with health expenses. And I'll throw in the caveat, you know, Louise and I have had broken bread with, I guess is the expression, with Nina and her husband, and she's been on this program a number of times, and we know each other, you know, as much as you can in politics. And I love Nina Turner. I think she's a wonderful, I mean, I love her as a person, I love her as a politician. So on June 15th, she launched this television spot, pro Medicare for All. Literally the very next day, corporate lobbyists in Washington, D.C. held a Washington fundraiser for her primary opponent, a woman by the name of Shontel Brown. And headlining the fundraiser was a guy named Jerome Murray. He was the, you know, like the guy who put this thing together and helped speak at it, is a registered lobbyist for pharma, for the Pharmaceutical Research and Manufacturers Association, PRMA, pharma, or PHRMA. The fundraiser, David Sirota notes, was also headlined by CVS health lobbyists, you know, the big drugstore chain, as well as 7 Democratic lawmakers who have raked in more than $5 million from donors in the pharmaceutical and healthcare sectors. And then Nina Turner's primary opponent rolled out an endorsement from Hillary Clinton, who back in 2016, you'll recall, said, and I quote, Medicare for all will never, ever happen. It was a verbatim quote. It was one of the reasons that, you know, the turnout in the 2016 election was so low in some areas for Hillary Clinton, was because people, you know, it's just another corporate Democrat. I'm not going to bust my ass to get out there and vote. And now Jim Clyburn, who has taken in more than $1 million in donations from donors in the pharmaceutical industry, has also endorsed Nina Turner's opponent. Nina Turner was way ahead. Now these very large endorsements from people who are taking lots of money from the healthcare industry, the health insurance industry, the pharmaceutical industry. And this is really sad. I mean, you know, Clyburn has, actually when Medicare for All was first proposed in 2017, he signed on as a co-sponsor, but 2 years later he said, no, take my name off. And he has now spoken out numerous times against Medicare for All. Even though in South Carolina, exit polls, and there's all links to this over at dailyposter.com. Every single point here has, you know, links to the actual polls and things and the actual ads and everything. The exit polls showed that a majority of South Carolina primary voters support Medicare for All. You know, in the 2020 election, Democrats lost a dozen House seats. And Jim Clyburn came out and said it was because we were campaigning on Medicare for All, socialized medicine. He said, if you do that, we're not going to win. And, you know, that's not what the polling says. And it's not what the base says. Republicans know how to run a base strategy. They know how to activate their base, they know how to get their base out, and they know how to serve their base. And Democrats appear to have kind of missed the boat on this. So my advice to Democrats is don't listen to Democrats who have lost their elections